Hello everybody and welcome back. This is a Blender Basics video which is all about removing things or breaking things apart and then filling them or gluing them back. So what these subjects are going to be is going to be deleting stuff, dissolving stuff, ripping things apart, vertices, and filling them and gluing them back together, merging them basically. So for this demonstration, I'm going to first of all, get rid of this cube, pressing delete. I'm going to add a cylinder because it allows me to do a few more things that I didn't do before that I could do better than with the cube. I'm going to switch to edge mode. I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to put a couple of edge loops in there by pressing Control R and then sliding up. All right, great. So I have a cylinder now with a bunch of different things I can show you. So the first thing you are going to do, or you're going to do very often, is delete faces. So let's say I want to just delete this top circle. First of all, let me actually switch to face mode. And before that, let me turn on my screencast keys. There we go. I will make the font a little bit bigger. All right, there we go. So let me go and switch to face mode by pressing 3. I'm going to select this face, and all I have to do is press delete. And once I press delete, I get a menu, and it's asking me, well, what do you want to delete? Do you want to delete all the vertices, the edges, the faces? I choose faces. And what that does is deletes the face and whatever, and keeps whatever is connected to it. So now I have got rid of the face. So for example, that's what I do a lot of the time. I press delete and I press faces, and now I've deleted this face. Of course, like anything else in Blender, if I want to select multiple faces at the same time and just do the whole thing at once, I can select them by pressing Shift, go to delete, faces, gone. I can also select a face loop. So by pressing Alt, and before I do this, I'm also going to get rid of this 3D cursor and this floor and even these axes. If I press Alt, I can select this entire edge loop, and I just go to delete faces. So that's most of the time how you delete faces. Now, edges, of course, can be deleted as well, and edge loops. But most of the time, you actually don't delete the edges of the edge loops. Let me show you what happens when you delete an edge. So if I select this edge, I just shifted to edge mode. If I delete this edge, if I press delete and choose edges, it deletes the edge, but it also deletes everything that was connected to it. So that wasn't necessarily what I wanted. I didn't want to just get rid of all these faces. Probably what you wanted to do was this. How did I just do that? Well, let me tell you. Let me show you what deleting the edge is once again. I'll select this whole thing. I'm going to delete this edge. And I just deleted all the faces connected to it. Probably not what you wanted. What you probably want to do was this. Select the edge. And now what you actually want to do was dissolve them. I dissolve something by doing Control X. That just gets rid of the edges, but it doesn't affect anything it's connected to. Most of the time, that's how you actually get rid of edges, because you usually don't want to just destroy the entire model and make it all weird. So once again, if I want to select, for example, this edge loop, I'll press Alt and click on it, and then press Control X, and now the edge loop is gone, but nothing else has been affected. I'll go back, put these edge loops back. And that's how I do it. Now, of course, I can dissolve an edge, just a single edge by pressing Control X, and then I get rid of the edge, but nothing else. So dissolving edges is usually what you want. One time you might actually want to delete an edge would be an example like this. I'm going to select this edge loop. I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Shift D and move it somewhere. Okay, let's say you have your model and you notice that there's some edges floating around that are detached and you don't want them. That happens sometimes when you're working and you notice that there's actually like a stray edge or something and it's not connected, but you really don't want it there. Well, that's an example of when you would actually delete an edge. So for example, I'll press Control Alt and click. Now I have this entire edge loop selected and I actually want to get rid of it. I press delete and edges. So usually the deleting of edges is when they're kind of separated from the mesh and you want to get rid of them. What about vertices? Well, if I delete a vertex in the same way I did a face, I get the same problem that happened with the edges. It deletes everything that thing was connected to. So you probably don't want that. You probably actually want to normally dissolve an edge. If I click it and I press Control X, I dissolve the edge. and it's a lot less destructive. It still left all the sort of parts there, but it only deleted what it was directly connected to. It was directly connected to those edges and that edge. It did delete that, but that's it. If I take this one and press Control X, it just deleted that vertex and whatever it was directly connected to. But whatever it was indirectly connected to stayed there, and the face actually stayed there. So now I have a face with no vertices. Usually when you do vertices, that's what you want to do. When you want to get rid of vertices, usually you dissolve them and not delete them. So again, I click the thing I want to dissolve and I press Control X. So dissolving is usually used for edges and vertices, and deleting is used for faces. Dissolving a face doesn't do anything. It doesn't work. Okay, what if you want to detach a vertex from another one? Like this. I'll get to, like this. What if you want to actually separate these vertices? There was one before, and I want to move this one here and actually just basically rip it off of that one. Well, that's actually called ripping a vertex. To do that, you just you select the vertex, you press V, and now it is ripped. Now by just moving my mouse, I can move and you see that it's detached. But even if I don't move my mouse, I press V, it is now detached. Now I could press, for example, GX, and it would move it along the X-axis. As soon as you press V, it's been detached. So I'll get it back. So V is for ripping vertices. There one, and I can press V and it rips it. I can do that with a bunch of them. I can select these all here, press V, and then maybe GZ. Oh, I missed that one. V, and I've ripped those vertices. Now the thing is that since a vertex is connected to many points, sometimes you have to do the operation a few different times to get all to rip it as much as you want. Let's say I want this whole part to be completely detached. I press V and I move it. Well, it's still attached to these two. I might press V again, and now this is completely detached. So sometimes you have to press V twice in order to actually totally detach the thing you want to detach. That's fine. Now if I press V again, nothing's going to happen. Report error, rip fail. That's because there's nothing, it's not attached to anything, so it won't do anything. So once you get to see it says error, rip fail, that means there's nothing to detach. But right now, if I go V here and move it, I can still press V again because these are connected. Great, now it's totally detached. If I press V again, it won't work, as you see. So V is ripping, which detaches vertices from one another, basically making two vertices out of one. Okay, very useful. So far we've seen deleting, dissolving, and ripping. Great, well now how do you reattach things? Let's delete a face. Select this one over here, press delete, delete the face. Great, now I have a big gap. How do I actually fill that gap? Let's say I want to create a face and fill it. Well, the easiest way is to press Alt and click. Oh, sorry, I have to go to Edge mode first. First, I have to go to Edge mode. Press Alt and click, and now I've selected all the edges around the part I want to fill. And now what you're going to do is you're going to fill it by pressing F. F is for fill in this context. And that would work. So if I'll just do I'll select a couple of faces, I'll do it like that, I'll go like that, and I'll just get rid of them first of all, delete faces. And now to fill them, I first have to select the edges around them so it knows what it wants to fill. Now I press F and it fills them. F, very, 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 very useful. Let's see if it works if I do an entire face loop. Delete faces. Now I do this, I switch back to edge mode, select that, F. Well, problem is it filled that edge loop and it filled that edge loop. It didn't do what we wanted it to do. Interesting. How would we do this? Let's say, I'm going to go back. Let's say we get rid of this. We delete it. We have a large gap, but there's nothing actually touching with these things. There's no connecting edges. You notice that when I tried to do this before by selecting this edge loop and this edge loop, and I pressed F, the computer didn't understand what it needed to do, and it just filled that in, and it filled that in. Well, here's how you do this. I need to connect these two edge loops. To do this, I go to edge and I write bridge edge loops. Let me go back there. This is an edge operation, even though it's filling it in with faces. Select that, bridge edge loops, bridge edge loops. Let me go back and you see as long as I've selected two edge loops like that, if I go to edge, bridge edge loops, this connects them. So again, a very, very useful operation. I am bridging the edge loop. It'll still do it. Now I notice that I have the same number of vertices on both sides and it works perfectly. Let's do something, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take one of these edge loops here, and I'm actually going to subdivide it. So now if I go to vertex mode, you see there's way more vertices here than here. Is this still going to work? Can I bridge these two edges that have totally different amounts of vertices? Let's see, kids. I select this one. Sorry, I select this edge loop. I select this edge loop. I go to edge, bridge, and you'll see it's going to fill it, but with some weird triangles. The reason it did that is because it had to fill vertex to vertex, so it basically created a bunch of triangles to attempt to bridge this as best it could. So generally, you don't want to you want to have the two edge loops that you're bridging to be the same amount of vertices, or you get a very sloppy result. It might be okay, but usually it's pretty sloppy and hard to kind of work with. So most of the time, you want to bridge edges that have the same number of vertices. It's a lot better as a result. Okay, so far we've filled faces, and I'm going to show you something else. Bring back here. What if I want to merge vertices? So let me show you what I mean by this. If I go to vertex mode, and I click these two vertices, what if I want to actually bring them together? Sort of the opposite of the ripping. I want to take these two vertices and actually combine them into one. I want to merge them. Well, that is you're going to get a menu if I press M for merge. When I press M, you see you get a menu, and there's a lot of different options, and it depends what you want to do. The first option says at center. That means it will find the center point of those two vertices and stick them together there. Let's choose this one. Let's go back, do it again. What it did is it took the center point, which is right there, and it stuck them together over there. So often that's a good one that you would select, the center point. I could also go to M and I'm going to choose at cursor, and you're going to see since the cursor is way somewhere else, it's going to merge them at the cursor, which is going to give a very weird result. There we go. Now, sometimes you want to do that because you want to merge them exactly. You want to put a cursor somewhere and merge them there. Nah, not that common, but you can do it. And then you have all these other options, and I'll show you. The last two are usually quite useful. Let's say that I want to merge this one. I'm going to take off the cursor again. Let's say that I want to merge this one over here, there. I want to take this one and put it exactly there. So I click this one first, click this one second, and I click this. The second one is where I want to put the first one. That's the location I wanted. I press M, and since that was the last one I clicked, this will now go to the last one I clicked. Let me do it again. What if I want this one to go over there? Click this, click this. If I press M at first, this will move the second one to the position of the first one. So now it went over there because that was the first one I clicked. Let me do it again. That's the first, that's the last. If I merge it at first, that one goes over there. So this is very, very useful because a lot of the times you want the second one to snap exactly where the first one was. You want to be able to control it. You don't always want them to be in the middle. So that is another useful thing. And the last option, which is extraordinarily useful, is called merge at distance. And I'm going to show you an example of that. Let's take this top part here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press V. No, I'm not going to do that. I am going to do this. Hold on. I'm moving this up so it's really close. Okay. Sometimes you end up having a lot of points that are really, really close together, but it was an accident, or you somehow want them to just be one. Let's say I had these two edge loops here, and I actually just want it to be one edge loop. I don't want this double edge loop. And this does happen either by accident or just while you're modeling. So one way to do this is to merge them by distance. So I'm going to select both these edge loops. We're going to go into vertex mode. You're going to see that these two vertices are pretty close together. They're a lot closer than this is to this. So if I find a distance, a minimum distance that will merge these two, it will merge all of these two entire edge loops together. And it'll be pretty fast. I press M and I go by distance. Now, if I open up this menu, as I said, transformations, you can always open up this little left-hand menu. It gives me the distance it's merging by. The distance it's merging by is much too small, and it's smaller than this distance is. So I'm going to make the distance a little bit bigger. You do this by just moving the slider. So if I got it, I'll go back here. So let's say it was over there. If I go here, it's now saying, okay, well, the distance is 0.01 meters, so a centimeter. Um, and that was enough. That was enough to snap these two together, and now they are merged. Do that again. Here's my two edge loops, pretty close together. And if I do a good merge by distance, only these will be merged and it'll work properly. So M by distance, and in that case, I chose a good distance and it works. Let's say I keep going higher. Well, you're going to see what happens if I go too far. Now it's going to merge everything that was that close apart, which is obviously not what you want. So I'm going to go back since it hasn't been accepted yet. That was close enough, not too close, and it worked. So merging by distance is something that you're going to use quite a lot. There we go. We have now learned deleting, dissolving, ripping, filling, bridging, and at the end, merging. Okay, hope that was a useful video. Thank you.